Back to the developing story involving Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin. We know he's still in critical condition this morning after going into cardiac arrest and collapsing during Monday Night Football against the Bengals. Many are wondering today what Hamlin's future will look like. What's that recovery process? What's the best and worst case scenario? What's his future going to be? For more on this, we're joined by Dr. Dave Montgomery, a board-certified generalist and cardiologist in Atlanta who hosts the web series The Good Doctor TV. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on back-to-back days.
Great to be with you, Mitch, again.
So I know that we were yesterday discussing what might have happened, and you said there are a few options, anywhere from commotio cordis, the impact with the chest, to a head injury that might have even led to a cardiac event. Given that we don't know exactly what happened to him, how much more difficult does that make it to forecast what his future will look like?
Yeah, so I think what's important now is both of those reasons, and including all others, will sort of converge on the same thing, which is the heart ventricular fibrillation is what we call it. It's stopped. And what we typically do after this, right? We don't know about him, but what we typically do is we get the patient their return of circulation, and then we put them through a protocol where we are trying to save as much brain and heart as possible. It's a cooling process. We take the temperature of the body down and allow the body to try to heal itself over time. And as you've been hearing, the 48 hours after that process is really critical to see how much brain we've been able to save and how much recovery he can have. So there is some objectivity here. So the neurologist and the ICU doctors are paying very, very close attention to his neurologic recovery as they bring down the sedation and test his breathing on his own every single day. So time really still is very important here, Mitch.
And again, given that we don't know exactly what happened to him and what his status is, that kind of puts every future scenario on the table, right? There's a best case scenario and there's a worst case scenario, but the difference between them is very wide because we don't know how much brain tissue has died, if any, how much heart tissue has died, if any, how much muscular tissue other places. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So as an ICU doctor, I can remember doing advanced life support on people where they didn't have their own circulation, not for 9 minutes like him, but for 30, 40 minutes. And in your brain, you're saying, I know we're trying the best we can, but this person probably is not going to live. Lo and behold, they walk out of the hospital fully functioning. So I know that there's a lot of objective things that the doctors are going to be looking at. They're going to be making sure that they do the best they can. But there's a lot to say here, Mitch, about the human will to live and the body's own ability to heal itself. And I just have to say this, time will tell. We really just have to wait to see what his recovery is going to be like, and we might be surprised.
And we know this looks like a football injury, but sometimes things that happen on the field of play can trigger other conditions. So is there a genetic contribution here as to what his future might be? Might it depend on his genes as to how well he recovers?
Yeah, so really big, important part. And I think what you're hitting on is that he could have had a pre-existing condition, a genetic predisposition to heart problems, and not know it. Remember, there's been several athletes throughout history that have had the first sign that they've had a problem on the field of play. But doctors would be able to sort of back their way into that answer. And we haven't heard from them quite yet. And I think that's the respectful way to do this, as to whether or not there were signs that there was heart disease, as to whether or not there were signs of other conditions that could have contributed. Remember, there are so many things that could have, in a perfect storm, in that hit, could have caused him to have a cardiac arrest that have nothing to do with the hit itself, that have nothing to do with the concussion. So yes, the answer is yes.
All right, very quickly, because I know we got to go, but is there any way at this early juncture to decide whether or not he will play again?
So I think we have to wait for that. I think the first thing is, hey, let's get him off of the life support and talking and moving on his own. The likelihood, though, is if I were his cardiologist, I would take a lot of caution before we made any recommendations, get him working out and strong and all of that stuff first, before we made any decisions about it. And it would also suppose that we really do know the answer to why it happened. If it's commotio cordis, boy, that's going to be really hard to get him back into the field of play, where you can't mitigate from a ball hitting you, for example. You catch a ball. Or other things like that. So I think this is going to be something that we do have to wait on, Mitch, unfortunately.
That makes sense. That's Dr. Dave Montgomery. Thank you for your expertise.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.